Good morning and welcome to the second grade Memorial Day program. This program has been a long-standing tradition for our second grade students, and we are pleased to have you here. At this time, I would like to invite our principal, Mr. Campbell, to the stage.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us today. A couple of notes really quickly before we get started formally. If you could please check quickly to make sure that your cell phones and pagers are at least on silence. That would be nice. We have a wonderful presentation planned for you. We don't want you to miss a single one. With that said, I'd like to welcome everyone to our show. Special thanks to Mrs. Lane for joining us today, the superintendent of schools. Always a pleasure to see her. Sharon, it's always a pleasure, and of course, most importantly, our honored guest today, gentlemen from who have served our country from across the years, and we're always honored to have you all with us. I ask at this time that everybody rise, and we have a happy movement. And just so you know what's happening, if I'm going to lead you in the pledge, after the pledge, if you could please remain standing, the students are going to sing the Star Spangled Banner. So, you join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing.
Thank you, and you may be seated. We are gathered here today to honor and respect the true meaning of Memorial Day. It is important for everyone to take time out of their holiday weekend with family and friends to stop and remember those who served our country valiantly and preserved our freedom. All of the second graders have worked extremely hard memorizing poems, researching Memorial Day history and traditions, and rehearsing songs to make this a most memorable program. We'd like to give a special thank you to our music teacher, Mrs. Kelly, for helping us with our songs. Please enjoy today's program. To have many special veterans here with us on the stage today. Please listen carefully to a little history about each veteran. I would like to introduce Mr. Carol DeMoga. Mr. DeMoga is a veteran of World War II. He entered the Army in 1942. And became a surgical tech. Mr. DeMoga landed at Normandy 2 months after D-Day. He was in the Battle of the Bulge, which Winston Churchill stated as undoubtedly the greatest American battle of World War and regarded as an ever-famous American victory.
I'd like to welcome Mr. John Gamoga. While his brother Carol was battling the war in Europe, he was on a gun crew in the Pacific Ocean aboard the USS Baltimore. This 9-battle starship carried President Roosevelt and General Douglas MacArthur to Hawaii and Alaska in 1944. He also witnessed the sinking of the aircraft carrier USS Franklin.
I would like to introduce my grandfather, Airman First Class Stephen F. Hutnack. He served as a weapons mechanic and loader in the U.S. Air Force during the Vietnam War. While overseas, he was stationed in Guam in Thailand, where he worked on B-52 bombers and F-4C fighters.
This is Clifford H. White. He was born on July 6, 1931. He served in the Navy from 1950 to 1954. He served aboard the USS Soli DD-07. He completed an around-the-world tour and obtained the rank of Commissary Manso, the head chef aboard the ship. He served 7 months in the Korean combat zone. His general quarters station was on the bridge of the ship. Most of the time, his ship was stationed in the Wonsan Harbor in Korea as an on-call ship to cover the Army and Marines on needs. Has served 29 years in the Army. He has participated in 5 tours of duty, 1 in Kosovo, 3 in Iraq, and 1 in Afghanistan. He is currently assigned to Special Operations Command in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He is also the former commander of the VFW Post 7554. Jeff Laporte, who is current commander of the FW Post 7554, is also with us this morning.
My grandfather, Jay Armadale, was in the U.S. Navy. He served as an aviation electronics tech from September 1956 to 1960 on an aircraft carrier for Honolulu.
Philip Falcon Jr. was in the Army during World War II. He was stationed in Germany and was a surgical tech. Mr. Falcon was part of the European, African, and Middle Eastern Theater Campaign. Specialist Patrick Martin was an infantryman, 371 Cavalry, 3rd Brigade, 10th Mountain Division in Fort Drum, New York. He did 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan.
William Sigilnik was a crew chief in the Army from 1968 to 1969. He is a decorated Vietnam veteran who is honorably discharged. I would like to introduce Brian Moody, Jared Rashigian, and Brianna Taft from Mrs. Matchak's class, who will give us a little history on the war monuments in our town and when the parade will be held.
The monument on the common in East Douglas was dedicated to We'll now share some history on the red poppy things we are wearing today. Poppies. Today we are wearing flowers called poppies. These flowers represent our veterans and all that they have done for us so that we may live in a free country. The poppy represents the blood that has been shed during war.
In 1915, a woman named Moina Michael began to sell poppies to try to make people identify Memorial Day with this beautiful red flower. She started the National Poppy Movement.
This tradition is carried through today. Veterans all over the country sell paper poppies to help raise money for veteran causes. These were the poppies that the second grade has made for you with pride this Memorial Day weekend. Lauren Kelly and Alyssa Schilling from Mrs. Durrell's class will be reading the poem In Flanders Fields. This poem was written many years ago by Lieutenant Colonel John J. McCrae. It describes a battlefield crosses dotted with red poppies. This poem deeply touched the nation and world. From that point on, poppies became known throughout the world as a memorial flower, a reminder of lives lost in wartime. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses row on row that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still breathe, singing. Scarce heard in the buildings below, we are the dead short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours no matter high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. Trevor Wiles, also from Mrs. Durrell's house, will recite the poem Memorial Day. Memorial Day. What do you do on Memorial Day to honor our fallen men? What do you do on Memorial Day to help remember them? Hammering a rock, a fiery red, ammonia purest white, and iris too, a purest blue, the three will be just right. Mrs. Kelly will now lead the second graders into the song America the Beautiful. Mark Bellamy, Juliana Buchanan, and Dominic Muscatel from Mrs. Lancaster's class, and Jack Jordan, Aidan Oliver, and Emma Demoy from Mrs. Bertoni's class will now share the history of the Netherlands Hall. A big event of the 20th century was World War II. Many things that happened during those times continue to fascinate us. The books, the movies, and perhaps most of the music. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the 32nd President of the United States when the war began in 1941. When the war ended in 1945, Harry Truman was our 33rd President. Perhaps many of you have a great-grandfather or grandfather that fought in the war. Today, our classes would like to sing the song There'll Be Bluebirds Over the White Cliffs of Dover. Dover is located in England. On the English Channel, massive breakwaters enclose the spacious 500-acre harbor. Dover is famous for its towering 320-foot chalk white cliffs.
During World War II, Dover was under continuous attack because of its location in the English Channel. From August 8, 1940, the Germans bombarded the town of Dover frequently. Nazi bombers also raided Dover to cripple Bolshevik and naval activities.
The song we are about to sing expresses how the people of Dover would feel when World War II ended. As you celebrate this Memorial Day, take a moment and give thanks to the many men and women throughout our country that fought to preserve and protect our freedom. Hope you enjoy your performance. Mrs. Smiley will now lead students in singing the White Cliffs of Dover. Abraham Lincoln served as president when the Civil War began in 1861. The time was tragic and the country was falling apart. The South was fighting for the right to own slaves. The North was fighting against that. In 1863, the Southern Army headed into the North. The battle was fought in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Although Lincoln was grateful that they won, he was sad for all the lost lives. The citizens decided to build a special cemetery for the fallen 43,000. They agreed to have a speech and that the president should say something. The president's message was the soldiers didn't lose their lives in vain. He thought we should leave the country united the way George Washington started it, and that they fought for what they thought was right. President Lincoln assumed his words would not be remembered. The next day, the speech was printed in newspapers all over the world. The Gettysburg Address is one of the most favorite speeches in American history. Thomas George, Rachel Minman, Andrew Bouchel, Matthew Landry, Lorena Digatado, Joshua Cullen, Julia Kosciuk, B. Slowick, Mia Bumil, Owen Poco, Stephen Willen, and Anthony DeMille will now be saying the game's management. Foursquare and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation. Equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war.
We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives, that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this.
But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The great men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add a detract.
The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here.
It is those the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It rises to be here dedicated to the great house remaining before us. After these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they give the gospel much revolution. That we here highly resolve that these dead should not die in vain, that this nation under God shall new birth of freedom. And that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from this earth.
The song American Tears is a heartfelt song we would like to share with you.
Sometimes I think about America.
all for coming and hope you would reflect on the truth and